Welcome back to another day where we're commemorating Passion Week by reliving the events that we're reading about in the Gospels. We're not passively reading them, but we're reliving them, becoming their characters and performing the biblical characters that we're reading about. So again, today we're going to do the same thing. And remember, the first thing is to read the readings, not just sit down and listen about the gospel, but to actually read the gospels. And today's part of today's reading is in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 26 verse 1 through 16. So when we're reading here, we first see that today was the day where the Pharisees decided to crucify Christ. So they convened together and they decided we're going to crucify him, not on Passover, but we're going to get this. So they made that decision that day. And then soon afterwards, we hear and we read about a woman, a sinful woman at that, who went to Christ and she poured one of the most expensive perfume at the time all over Christ. And when the disciples saw this, they thought to themselves, what a waste. Think about where all this money could go. Could feed the poor, they said to one another. And Christ, hearing what they said, why criticize this woman for doing such a good thing to me? You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me, he said. She has poured this perfume on me to prepare my body for burial. I tell you the truth. Wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed. And here again, thousands years later, we're still discussing about the good deed that this woman did. Soon after this, Judas goes and he betrays Christ for 30 cents. He hands over Christ for 30 cents. So that's the reading. Part 2, the reflection. This is the day that they agreed to crucify Christ. I mean, sometimes you've got to take time to really think about what the gospel is telling you. That means a group of people convene to gather together so they can do harm to another, in this case, to Christ. It's important to think about what this message is telling us. If we're surrounded with people who are always plotting to do sin or to do wrong, maybe it's time to separate ourselves from this negative surrounding that we're in. If you ever find yourself in a meeting and in a plot to do harm, to do sin, to do wrong, you need to excuse yourself and get out of that meeting, because we're no different than the Pharisees who are plotting against Christ. We've got to take time to understand what that meaning is, to sit down and convene, not to do good, but to do bad. Most of us don't like to attend meetings for YOTC, but yet some of us need to be more vigilant when we're finding ourselves in a circumstance where people are plotting to do something that's un-Christian. The second thing we read is the women pouring ointment all over Christ and the disciples becoming angry. Especially to all of you servants out there. Sometimes serving is hard. And the more you serve, it's natural that you may not see eye to eye with other people. Sometimes the words of a human being can be very harsh and people could get deterred. And sometimes servants walk away from serving God. Please don't let the words of human being deter you from your services to Christ and to God. Don't be distracted by what people are telling you. Of course, in fact, the fact that people are becoming resistant to your service is a testimony that you're doing something right. Most of the time when we're doing something good, the devil is going to retaliate by trying to distract us. One of the ways that he's going to do that is by things like this, by criticisms, by things they're just not fair, and don't let that deter you from serving God. This woman was on a mission. She didn't care what people were saying to her. She looked foolish, but she gave the best that she had to Christ because she was desperate to stand before him. And soon enough, we read that Judas betrays Jesus for 30 cents. Now, whenever we read about Judas, we're like, oh, what a horrible guy. Oh, Judas, yeah, he's a horrible guy. But it's important to understand, if we take time and read the gospel, we must admit there's a part of Judas inside of us. There's that element of Judas inside of all of us. Have we ever paid money to commit sin? If we're honest, I think we have. We've done things that make us get away from Christ in order to commit sin by paying our own money, whether that's going to a place that we shouldn't be, whether that's paying money to do things that we shouldn't. That is becoming Judas. That's playing the role of the wrong character. That's not the character we're assigned. We should be the women who's anointing Christ with the most expensive perfume. But some of us have dedicated, whether it's money, time, energy, into doing something that makes us lose Christ. So we're handing him over by every time that we're committing sin, and we're using our resources that we have, whether it's money or energy or time or whatever it is. By committing sin, we're walking away from Christ, and we're becoming like Judas. But today, the goal is not, our character is not Judas. Our character is this woman, and it's to anoint Christ with the best thing that we have. Part 3, lights, camera, action. So the way that we're going to perform this is through charity, by giving, whether it's to church, whether it's feeding the poor, or whatever the case is. Today, give money to something. Don't talk about it. Don't tell your friends about it. Hey, look what I'm doing today. I'm giving money. I'm a good guy. No. Today we're going to give. But here's the challenge. All of us have like a certain value. Like, we're Christians. We give charity all the time, I'm sure. But we have a value. We're like, all right, like whenever you give charity, it could be like $50. It could be $100. Like you're set. You have like a standard that you give. Today, give more than what you're used to. Let it hurt a little bit. Right? So it's giving the best of the best. Remember, we're playing a role. We have a role to play. We're performing, right? So when we perform today, our role is to be like that woman who gave the best of the best. Not what we have usually set aside, but today we're going to give the best of the best that we have. Give more than what you can. Double the amount, right? Give until it hurts. Because this lady didn't hold back. She gave everything that she had, and today we're going to be challenged to give what we don't have. Usually it's like, give what you have. No, today we're going to give a little bit more than we could afford. I know it's going to hurt, but that's the challenge. That's what it means to become these characters. Not just reading about them, not just reflecting about, but by becoming them. And the way we do that is give the best of the best that you have. Yeah, it's going to hurt. I know finances is a little strict right now, but today, whether it's a church or whatever it is, give what you have and give until it hurts. I hope you join us again for tomorrow's reflection and performance. We have another performance to do, so I hope you guys join us for this commemoration of the Holy Week.